Tempo FM.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tempo FM. If you've only just tuned in, you are listening to 107.4. I am Rebecca with something a little different. And this week, although the surprising weather... It's certainly a surprise to me. The surprising weather has kind of thrown it a little bit off track. I was going to do a theme of birds and the bees today because they are all starting to come out of hibernation. They're starting to migrate back. They're all starting to wake up from their winter sleeps. Except winter's just come back again. But I'm going to proceed on anyway, and I'm going to start off with Nelly Furtado's I'm Like a Bird. Nelly Furtado with I'm Like a Bird. Yes, it's birds and bees because it's supposed to be the end of winter. Well, getting to the end of winter. Obviously, we've had this surprise flurry today. And the animals are supposed to be coming out of hibernation. In fact, I can contest that they are coming out of hibernation because during the winds last week, whenever there was a pause for long enough, the birds would start to sing. So the birds are waking up, the birds are being more active, but that doesn't mean they are okay, because the best thing to do, of course, when it's when they have woken up, they've obviously hibernated or they've spent a lot of time huddled up in nests, keeping warm during the winter, and they might have struggled to find food throughout the winter months, and particularly since it's been such terrible weather with all the rain and the wind. Still a good idea to leave out some nice bird food for them and bird seed. So I'm going to go on to the next song now, which is by Ronan Keating, and it is I Believe I Can Fly, because it's not just birds that can fly, of course. In fact, not even all birds can fly. Ostriches can't fly, but we don't get those in this country unless they're in a zoo. So birds, but also lots and lots of bugs can fly, and I'm going to be getting more onto that after this song. Ronan Keating with I Believe I Can Fly, and I believe that lots and lots of birds can fly, except for a couple of little species, including ostriches, as just mentioned, and penguins. Now, penguins can't fly. They are flightless birds, of course, until they get into the water, which is where they hunt for food. Now, they actually started off. They evolved from birds that could fly, in fact, which is why they've got wings and kind of feathers. They're very short feathers. It's more like a very tight fur to help keep them warm and to keep the water off them. But in the process of evolution, the penguin's hollow bones became solid and heavy, so they could no longer lift themselves out of the water to fly. But that's probably because they were spending so much time in the water, they needed more weight to be able to get down to the fish and to swim around in the water. Otherwise, deeper depths would have caused their bones to have become their bones would have been very fragile anyway if they were hollow. But the higher pressure in the water would have caused their bones to break, so they wouldn't have been able to dive so deeply, which is why they have got denser bones and heavier bones so that they can dive down into the water. So now you learn something new every day. Right, let's carry on with the theme, and here's a song that fits perfectly with the theme. Well, the title of it anyway. This is called Birds and the Bees by Warm Sounds.
The heart and soul of the Lower Wharf Valley. This is Tempo FM.
That's right, and it is 19 minutes past 11. You're here listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different, where the theme this week is birds and bees, because they are starting to come out of hibernation. So if anyone thought, "Ooh, birds and bees? How obscene, what's she doing?" No, it's not that. And you know what I'm talking about. We know what you're talking about. No, birds and bees, bugs, mini beasts, things that hibernate, things that fly, squirrels even. And unfortunately, I only found one song about a squirrel, but I'm going to play that for you later because it's very funny. But they hibernate or they migrate, all in the name of survival. So here in the UK, it tends to be bats, dormice, and hedgehogs who are most commonly associated with hibernation. Whereas with birds, instead of hibernating, they use migration to avoid adverse conditions. So they will migrate south, for example, or we get some birds that actually come from further north who migrate south to us because it's much warmer and they can find food more easily. And then come spring, summer, they migrate back to where they came from, which are effectively their nesting grounds. So all in aid of staying alive. Here are the Bee Gees.
Tempo FM weather.
Yes, let's get a quick look at what's happening with today's weather. Well, if you weren't already aware, we had snow overnight. Yeah, that's right. We had a nice coating of white, but it is very wet snow, which means it is slushy. So I'd recommend very waterproof shoes, if not several layers of socks, because a very short walk to the car this morning and I got very cold toes. Today, rain, sleet and snow increasingly turning to rain at low levels with icy stretches possible for a time. Rain and hill snow clearing in the afternoon, leaving some sunny spells, windy especially across hills, with a maximum temperature of 11 degrees Celsius. Remaining windy and cold with a frost tonight, plenty of clear spells with just a few wintry showers, mainly on hills in the west. Snow melt refreezing, giving some icy patches tonight, minimum temperature -1 degree Celsius, which I'm sure we all remember. Under zero is freezing temperatures. Well, that was a nice update for the weather. Right, birds and bees today. So that's why it kind of threw off my theme for today a little bit, because I thought, the weather's warming up. It's all being, we've been getting all these ex-tropical storms coming over and everything and making it rain like crazy and be windy like crazy. But in the silence, when it was nice and quiet and it wasn't raining or windy anymore, you could hear the birds singing, which was always really nice. And I thought, oh yes, spring. And obviously the flowers have been coming up, but the only thing flowers really pay attention to is temperature. Whereas obviously the birds aren't going to be trying to fly around, find food, build nests in the storms that we've been having. That would be a very silly thing to do, whereas flowers are quite nicely rooted to the floor. So although the birds and the bees and the other animals, including squirrels, will have woken up, they're probably regretting it now and probably just nip back to bed for a quick nap today. So, let's carry on with some music now. When I thought about birds and bees and bugs, of course, there was a particular film that I remembered, and this film was called A Bug's Life. It's a Pixar film, now Disney Pixar. It's now been bought out by Disney, so it's now a Disney Pixar film called Bug's Life. And there's one song. It's not a musical film, as Pixar films don't tend to be, but it has a very iconic song at the end, which actually refers to the bugs and a lot of things that happen in the film. So here we go. This is The Time of Your Life from A Bug's Life.
And now, more good times and great songs all day long.
Tempo FM.
This is Tempo FM.
Good times, great songs.
Yes, and you're still listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different. It is 25 minutes to 12, which means I am 35 minutes into my show about the birds and the bees and how they're, supposedly coming out of hibernation, but they've probably all gone back to bed this morning for a quick nap until the snow passes by. So a couple of interesting facts here. A couple of bugs that do hibernate during the winter include cockroaches, earwigs, wood lice, fleas hibernate in the winter. It's obviously when it's nice and cold. Silverfish, winter moths, spiders and ladybirds. Now, fleas I definitely know don't like the cold, because the only time they like to breed is when they're on something warm, mainly your pets. So winter is a good time to get rid of fleas and to help kill off the eggs. But I'm not going to be playing songs about fleas. I'm going to play a song about a butterfly next. This is Delta Goodrem with Butterfly. Delta Goodrem with Butterfly there. We were just having a little discussion here in the studio about how high butterflies can fly, and the highest ever reported, because you think, they're just going to hang around, float about the flowers and things, but no. The highest monarch butterfly ever seen, and it was seen during the fall migration by a glider pilot, that's a hint, was 11,000 feet. To put that into perspective, that's over 2 miles high. It's short. It's still quite a lot lower than the highest mountain in the world, which is, of course, Mount Everest, which is about 29,000 feet. But I mean, over 2 miles up, that's a little bit crazy. Obviously, I did just say that butterflies tend to hibernate. That's obviously not all butterflies. Monarch butterflies do migrate to warmer climates. And maybe after this, I will have a look at which birds and how high birds like to fly. Or the highest reported bird. I mean, generally, songbird migrations tend to occur between 2,000 and 4,000 feet, which is less than 1 mile high. But actually, even then, that's the same height and higher than the highest hot air balloons, which is 2,000 feet. So there's obviously a lot of empty airspace up there because passenger jets are cruising around at about 36,000 feet. So, you know, they're kind of filling in the gap in between. But butterflies, of course, fly on silent wings, unlike some creatures, such as bumblebees, who like to hum around a lot, and flies, which buzz, and wasps that just go around scaring everyone. But we have, next on, Tina Turner with On Silent Wings.
The heart and soul of the Lower Wharf Valley. This is Tempo FM.
It is, and today we've been talking about the birds and the bees. It is 10 minutes to 12, so I've got a bit of time to squeeze in a few more facts and a few more songs as well. So, I've just talked about the highest recorded flying butterfly, recorded at just over 2 miles up by a glider pilot, was a monarch butterfly during autumn migration. But the highest bird species in the world that I've just looked up on record, the two highest flying, I should say, species on record are the endangered Ruppel's griffon vulture, which has been spotted flying at 37,000 feet, which is the same height as a coasting commercial airplane, and the bar-headed goose, which can be seen flying over the Himalayas at heights of nearly 28,000 feet. And I've just been told a kind of sad statistic that it tends to be these vultures flying at 37,000 feet that end up going through airplane front windows, airplane windshields, and there have been times where the bird has gone through so hard that it shattered the window and killed the pilot on the other side. Something which I'm desperately hoping never happens to my dear boyfriend, who is a pilot himself. So let's move on to something a little bit more chirpy, I think. Here's the Hollies with Rockin' Robin. The Hollies with Rockin' Robin there, slightly more upbeat song than some of the ones. I played lots of very slow songs today. What's going on? It's all slow ones, whereas birds, I mean, they're always hopping about and they're always so active and energetic, and they never stay still, which is a wonder how so many cats can catch them. Obviously, the cats have just got quicker and the birds have not quite got quick enough yet. Right, next song I'm going to play for you is called Lady Bird. Two words there, but the actual ladybird, the insect, which is a kind of beetle, of course. I always wondered why on earth it's called a ladybird, because they're not all girls, of course, and they're not birds, so why? So I've just had a quick search online, and it says the name ladybird originated in Britain, where the insects became known as Our Lady's Bird or the lady beetle. Mary, Our Lady, was often depicted wearing a red cloak in early paintings, and the spots of the 7-spot ladybird, the most common in Europe, were said to symbolise her 7 joys and 7 sorrows. That's quite dramatic, I think. That's quite dramatic. Well, I thought it might have been something to do with maybe Little Red Riding Hood and how she always has the red cloak on, but I think that must have come much later on. So here we go. Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood with Lady Bird. Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood with Lady Bird there. And to take us up to the news at 12 o'clock, I have another sort of fun song for you. I was just saying that birds are very active. They like to bounce around a lot. They like to skip and hop and spend a lot of time shaking their tail feathers. But just before I leave you with it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you which birds stay in the UK over the winter, because I did say that some birds migrate down to us, where it is a bit warmer and they can find more food. So winter visitors include field fares, redwings, bramblings, beewicks and whooper swans, and many kinds of ducks, geese and wading birds. Many water birds also spend the winter on the sea around the UK coast, including common scooters, great northern divers and red-necked grebes or grebes, not sure how to pronounce that one. That's an interesting one. So yeah, we, as I said, we have our winter visitors, but then some of our other birds do migrate further south to keep warm. Anyway, this is going to take us up to the news at 12 o'clock, and I will see you after for another hour of something a little different here on Tempo FM 107.4 on your dial, or www.tempofm.co.uk.